a empennage we will call. Together it is called empennage. So therefore in the horizontal tail we can see that elevators, where the elevators, the function of an elevator is to pitch up and pitch down. It gives action of pitch up and pitch down. Okay, so in the vertical tail we can see the rudder. It gives the yawing motion, left right nose motion. Okay, left right, this is called as a yawing motion of an aircraft. And here also the cross section of the tail, when you cut into it, so we can also see the airfoils. Mainly here symmetric airfoils will be used. Here very symmetric airfoils. I'll show you the difference between the cambered airfoil and symmetric airfoils. How many types of airfoils we have? One is cambered airfoil, another one is symmetric airfoil. Okay, I will discuss with that with the NACA series, with the how you are going to nomenclature can be done it. Okay, in this, see here, this is called low speed that's a aileron. You can see like a airfoil. You can see this is for 1 mm low speed ultra light aircraft and airliner based. You can see there is a concavity or and supersonic interceptor, mainly for supersonic aircrafts. You can see thin airfoils we will call, and this is called propeller blades. Whenever you go and look the propeller of an aircraft or propeller of anything, so this propeller blade, it looks like this. And also you can see blackbird and turbofan. So turbofans, when you see the turbofan blades, when you go and engine the turbofans, so it will looks like this. This is the shape of an airfoil. And you can see turbine blades and wind turbines. So these wind turbine blades will look like this, and also dolphin flipper, sailboat. These are the different like how the structurally how the airfoil looks for a different applications. We'll discuss about it. And so here aircraft, helicopters, zeppelin, UAV, space shuttle. So these are all, when you look here in this, these are hovering rotors on that, they also have a airfoil shape. And also cross section of the wing is also having airfoil shape. And also this shape, you can see that they're all airfoil shape. Clear? And also you can see these are called wind turbines. In the wind turbine also it gives like a shape of an airfoil. And also see the parachute. The parachute also having a airfoil. Why it is the, what is the significance of it? What is the importance of it? We'll discuss it now. Okay. And we can see the race cars, and also they give a streamlined shape to an because where the drag will be less, and we have aerodynamically it will be, that structure will be good. So to attain those things, what we are doing up, we are giving a streamline structure to any body of an aircraft. It may be car. You can look here. So you can see here, these are called as a, you can see in the engine we have a turbine blades or maybe compressor blades. They all look like a airfoil. And also in the submarines, you can see that. You can see that inside these fans, what it is there, these all looks like a, these looks like airfoil. And also you can the shape of an ship. And you look here, so mainly when you are going in a ship, what happens, you can see this type of structure you would have seen. This type of structure, it is like, it looks like an airfoil. So what happens whenever air comes and it's, what happens, it leaves this trailing edge to the leading edge smoothly. So when there is no obstruction to the airflow, and what happens, there should not, if the air is at rush is higher, at that time it should not break into two pieces, correct, to make it smooth flow and also to reduce the oil consumption. So therefore Navy ship propulsion technologies option for reducing the oil. Why, how you are going to reduce the oil? By reducing the opposition to the flow of motion. So when you reduce that opposition to the flow of motion, at that time I can reduce the oil. So therefore by reducing it, how I am going to reduce it, I am coming with a concept called by the shape of an airfoil, which is fixing at the front portion of an ship. You can see that is called Navy ship propulsion technologies. Mainly we are using up, you can see that the wind, it is flowing from this, and it easily, yeah.
The cross section is what you call has the airfoil shape.
Yes. It's the cross section. But see here, this is the shape. See here, this is the airfoil. What happens here, whenever we cut into a wing, right? Inside we have a series of airfoils. Okay. So there is skin. Okay. So air is flowing according to this. You can see that how it is, air is flowing. Understood? That action will be given inner airfoils. Clear? Understood? So therefore, to avoid these all things, we have these type of in the ship also. You can see that to reduce the airflow, and also for like obstruction to the flow of opposition. Opposition should be reducing less. Means airflow should be smooth. Correct? It should not be turbulence. To reduce that, we are using clear. And also you can see this shape of ship, sailboats, and these are also have a sharp edge at the front, and you can see that these are all because to reduce. Understood? They are called Navy ship propulsion technologies, we will call. And you can see this is the how the airfoil looks. Okay. By airfoil selection, it depends upon cruise speed. Means, so if the drag during the cruise is higher, at the time it will not be faster, the aircraft, correct. 2, you can see again it is coming with a concept called cruise speed, means speed of an aircraft, or if a supersonic or it may be a subsonic, right? It depends upon that. By selecting the airfoil, I can tell that what speed my aircraft can fly. That is called cruise speed, takeoff and landing distances, stall speed, and handling qualities. It is mainly the pilot experiences is when he is flying in the near the stall. So what is the stall? I will discuss it. And overall aerodynamic efficiency. What is this aerodynamic efficiency? I'm speaking about lift to drag ratio. It is called aerodynamic efficiency. These are all parameters. They are the important parameters. It depends upon the airfoil selection itself. Clear? So what are the, you can see the parts of an airfoil. The first, this portion it is called as a leading edge, and this it is called as a trailing edge. What is this? This is a leading edge and this is a trailing edge, and this is called as a these camber. You can see this is called as a mean camber line. These are called as what? Mean camber line. This is called a thickness of an airfoil. What is this thickness? The distance between the upper and the lower surface. This is the maximum thickness. It is called thickness. And you can, this is called chord line and this is called a camber. So for symmetric, there will be zero camber. You can see this line, this is called mean camber as well as the camber. And we don't have any difference between the chord line and the mean camber. Such type of things are called as a symmetric airfoil. Means if I cut into 2 pieces, it will be equally I can cut this airfoil into 2 pieces. But in the cambered airfoil, what happens? We can see concavity will be at the trailing edge. I will discuss about it. So first you understand here, what is leading edge? What is trailing edge? The upper surface, lower surface, the chord line, and this is called a camber, and this is the thickness of an airfoil. What is angle of attack? That is the angle between the airflow. You can see the oncoming air to the deflection of an airfoil. That is called angle of attack. This is called alpha. This is called alpha. The airfoil camber is defined as, this is the airfoil camber is defined as the distance of the mean camber line from the chord line expressed as a percent of chord. We'll discuss about if it is a percent of chord, how you are going to take off when you are segregating between the different type of airfoils. Clear? And airfoil's thickness ratio, that is called T by C, refers to the maximum thickness of the airfoil. This is called maximum thickness of the airfoil divided by its chord, divided by its total chord line. You can see divided by its chord. That gives rise to a thickness ratio. And this is called under the distance of landing. And also we have a V stall. I will discuss about it. And just to understand how the airfoil looks, what are the parts of an airfoil? Yeah. And this is called airfoil lift and drag. Here symmetric airfoil, see this is the symmetric airfoil. See this point to this point, leading edge to a trailing edge, what happens? There is a line which is chord line. So which is dividing the upper and the lower surface equally. Such a type of airfoils are called as a symmetric airfoils. Understood? So therefore, whenever the air is flowing, you can see in the upper region, there will be a low pressure, but a high velocity of air. But in the lower, what happens? The velocity will be low and the high pressure will be there. This pressure difference between the upper and lower surface, it leads to the lift of an, understood? It gives the generation of an lift. So we can look here. So when air is flowing on the upper surface, this is called faster airflow and low pressure, and slow airflow, high pressure. This pressure difference between the upper and the lower surface, it makes the body to giving a lift action. That is called lift force. So how the lift occurs? By the difference between the pressure difference between the upper and lower surface, it leads to the lift of an aircraft. Okay. So therefore you can see the pressure distribution whenever I keep this airfoil in the wind tunnel. When I start to flow air over the airfoil, so what happens at that time? We have a dots here. See, from here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, up to 9 dots will be made on the airfoil. So we will be connected to a manometer. So once the manometer, what happens when the air is flowing? What happens? There is a pressure distribution over the surface. This pressure distribution will be calculated with the manometers, and we will take up the manometer readings. After that, we'll plot the graph. So when I plot the graph, you can see that the 1, 0 and -1. This is the area of lift coefficient in the negative. It is in the upper surface. You can see that there is a negative pressure gradient and the positive pressure gradient in the lower surface. It means that at the lower I have a high pressure compared with the upper surface. This pressure difference between the upper and the lower surface leads to the lift. So therefore, this is the pressure distribution over the airfoil, how it occurs when you are keeping in the wind tunnel test, when we do the wind tunnel test. Clear? So note that upper surface of the wing contributes the about 2/3 of the total lift, 2/3 of the total lift. So therefore, the integrated pressure differences in pressure between top and bottom of the airfoil generates the net lifting force. So this one we have to understand here. The integrated difference in pressure between top and bottom of the airfoil generates the net lifting force. Yeah. So We can see here, this is the upper surface and this is the lower surface. And this is the upper surface and the lower surface. You can see this is called a pressure difference. P minus P infinity half rho v square. See here, what is this infinity represents? Infinity is nothing but a what? Free stream pressure, free stream density, free stream velocity. Clear? And this is called total aerodynamic force, sum of pressure and shear. And this is called lift and drag. And this is called as a total aerodynamic force. This is called a resultant force. It gives rise to a lift to an aircraft. You can see the larger arrow marks on the down part. There is a high pressure at the bottom, low pressure at the upper surface. Clear? This pressure difference between the upper and lower, it leads to a generation of a lift. So you have to understand in the presence of pressures when you are speaking about it, that the difference between the upper and lower surface, the pressure difference between the upper and lower surface, it leads to a lift. Okay. And you can see here this small l, small d, small m. So all these small l, you can see CL. What is the equation for the lift? Lift is equal to half rho v square S into CL. It means that L is a lift, CL is a coefficient of lift, and rho is a free stream density, V is free stream velocity, C is the chord. I will discuss about it now. You look here, it is a function of angle of attack, Reynolds number, and a free stream Mach number. What is this alpha? Alpha is that this is the angle, it is the angle between the airfoil, and you can see that the airflow with a free stream velocity with a deflection of an airfoil. You can see this is called angle of attack. And Reynolds number tells that where the flow is laminar or turbulent. We would have studied in fluid mechanics. So where the Reynolds number is what? The Reynolds number tells us that the flow is laminar or turbulent. Okay. So is a free stream Mach number. What is this free stream Mach number? Mach number is nothing but what? The speed of an aircraft or a speed of an object to the speed of sound. That gives rise to a free stream. This is, you can see that V infinity by A infinity. A infinity is what? It is a speed of sound with respect to the speed of any object, or it may be an aircraft. We are taken up an aircraft. You are according to that is called the free stream Mach number we will call. And Reynolds number is what? Rho Vc by mu. That is of inertial force to the viscous force. So therefore it is it gives rise to its laminar or turbulency of the flow. So you C small l, C suffix t, C small m. You can see small l, small d, small m. These suffixes, what it is, it represents for an airfoil. That is for 2D geometry. If I take this as a capital L, capital D, capital M, small, it is there, right? These are all, I'm speaking about a total wing. That is series of airfoils, what it is there, right? It is a complete wing. Wing is a 3D geometry. Airfoil is a 2D geometry. For a 2D, for an airfoil, when I'm speaking about only airfoil, I'm going to take up of a small l, small d, small m. Please, you have to know about it, the difference between the wing as well as the airfoil. So that whenever we gives a small notations as a C small l, C small d, C small m, these are all representing the airfoil. Okay. This small l, small d, small m, this is called lift per unit span, drag per unit span, moment per unit span. And the forces and moment of the functions of one, it is angle of attack, free stream velocity. This infinity represents what? Free stream. And rho infinity represents free stream density. C is airfoil chord length. This is called airfoil chord length. In wing, we are taking it as surface area. In the wing, with this chord, it becomes surface area. Yes. And mu naught is free stream viscosity. A infinity is free stream sonic speed. And Q infinity is free stream dynamic pressure. It is a dynamic pressure. Understood? So the Q infinity is free stream. These are the notations you need to know about it. Wherever small it is there, please remember, it's important. The small l, small d, small m, this represents of a airfoil, not the wing. If I'm taking for capital L, capital D, capital M, then I'm speaking about a wing. Okay, the difference between the 2D and a 3D. And we can see that these are the airfoil characteristics are strongly affected by the Reynolds number. Already I told you.
I'm not able to hear you properly.
Not able to? Hello?
Sir.
Yeah, tell me. Yeah.
I'm not able to hear you properly.
Is disturbance is there?
Yeah, now it's okay.
Okay. 1 minute.
Yeah.
I think it is a signal. Now it's audible? Hello? Now it's audible?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. See here, airfoil characteristics strongly affected by Reynolds number. Okay. Already we know that Reynolds number is nothing but what? It tells that it is the flow over the airfoil is laminar or turbulent. And also this is a function CL, CD, CM is the function of alpha, angle of attack, and the free stream Mach number, free stream velocity. This is the function of that. So therefore, This Reynolds number tells that the flow over the airfoil is laminar or turbulence, okay, at which they are operating. The Reynolds number influences whether the flow is laminar or turbulent, whether the flow separation will occur or not. So therefore, we look here. These are the CL, CD, CM. These are the function of angle of attack, Reynolds number, and free stream Mach number. This Reynolds number tells that the flow over the airfoil is laminar, turbulent, and the flow separation. How the flow separation occurs? When the air is flowing over the airfoil. So in the increase in the angle of what happens, there is a flow separation occurs. By flow separation, what happens? Turbulency increases. I will discuss about it with the increase in the angle of attack, how it happens. Okay, and the typical aircraft, you can see here, this is the thing what we are speaking before. See, 0 degree, 5 degree, 16 degree, 20 degree. This is the change in the angle of attack with respect to the flow over the airfoil. You can see here, whenever the air is flowing over that, so this is 0 degree, and there is no separation is less. Separation points, you can see there's a turbulence after leading, when it is leaving at the trailing edge, you can see here. And when it increase 5 degree, this separation point is shifted ahead. You can see this is shifted ahead. Okay, when I increase 16 degree, what happens? It is early stage itself, flow separation is occurring. So what happens here? This is the point where the maximum lift occurs. After that, what happens? It loses its control. It means that lift will be less, drag will be more. Whenever more drag will be there compared to the lift, at that time the aircraft loses its control. So therefore, that is the point where I can see the maximum lift. After that, what happens? It will loses its control. Such an angle is referred as a stall angle. It is a point where the maximum lift occurs. After that stall angle, there will be a lift will be less, drag will be more. Drag will be more. So therefore, so these are the things what we have to understand. The 16 degree, 20 degree, and a 5 degree, 0 degree. This is when the increase in the angle of attack, we can see that. So there is the separation, it is shifting up. So that is leading to a turbulency. So therefore, it is a function of Reynolds number as well as the free stream Mach number and the angle of attack. So that makes sense now. Clear? So therefore, a cambered airfoil and a symmetric airfoil. See, this is the cambered airfoil. What is this? The cambered is, you can see, this is called a camber. The concavity in between that, you can see. So understood. Here in the symmetric, what is happening? So there is no here camber line I can see, but there is no camber here. Chord and camber, it will be merged here, and zero camber. So therefore, I can cut into two pieces equally in the upper and the lower surface. So when I look at CL versus alpha curve, like look here. So at a negative angle of attack also, I can see the lift in the camber airfoil. But at a 0 degree also, I'm not finding any lift here. So it means that at a negative angle of attack also, that I can see the lift in only the cambered airfoils, not in the symmetric airfoil. At a 0 degree, I can see still it is no lift. So when the increasing, what happens? I can see the increase in the lift. It depends upon the what type of airfoil I'm going to use it. So therefore, mainly in the wing, we are using the different type of variable airfoils also we will use, or mainly with the symmetric airfoils. Symmetric airfoils are used in tail sections. The most of the aircraft today also we are using for tail section because they are stabilizers. So therefore, mainly we are using symmetric airfoils in the tail section. That is called horizontal tail as well as a vertical tail. But in the wing, mainly we are using for a cambered airfoils, different series of the airfoils. I will discuss about it. And also flow separation from an airfoil at an angle of attack due to a large adverse pressure gradient result in the lift decrease and drag increase. That is called lift decrease and drag increase. That is called as a stall point. That is called stall angle. And you can see how the turbulence you can see in the picture. And your turbulence, how it is. And there is a loss of a lot of turbulence and there is no lift. And it iterates the lift and drag will be higher. And so we can see here, and CL versus CD shows the best location where to fly. This is the point. See here, this is the point. This is called a drag bucket. So it's a very important look here. This is drag bucket is nothing but a what? Whenever the aircraft is the pilot used to fly, he used to fly in this region itself. Why it is? See here, this is called, so in the first portion and the second portion, what happens here? So in the right portion of it, so this bucket, this is called low drag region, I will call, where the lift will be maximum. It will be very good lift and the drag will be less, where I can efficiently, I can fly the aircraft and also the performance of the aircraft will be good. Such a region is referred as a laminar bucket conventional airfoil polar, we'll call. It is called drag polar. It's called airfoil polar, that is called as a low drag region. That is called drag bucket. It is a feasible region where we can fly the aircraft. That is the optimum point, CL optimum. CL optimum. We have to choose when we are going to design. We'll discuss about it. So how we are going to choose it? What is the thing? Just to understand by the airfoil selection, what all the parameters it affects. So this is called as a drag bucket. This is called as a drag bucket. I have to choose that value as, so you can see L by D, the value should be, you can see best L by D, it should be 0.5 or a 0.6 or a 0.7 or a 0.4 according to that, which aircraft you are going to design. Clear? And also we can see here, and this is the for, in this we can see that, understood, alpha stall, this is a stall angle where it may be around 16 degree will be a stall angle. Clear? And these are the different type of things, and this you understand, this is called as a drag bucket. Okay, it's very important. What is drag bucket region? Where it's called a low drag region. Understood? It's very efficient to fly in that region. Clear? And the CL versus the CD according to the Mach number, and with the higher the speed where we not feel much drag. So therefore in the supersonic speed we are not much considered. It's according to that CL versus CD. You can check here. And CL versus CD, just to understand here, what is this optimal CL? This is a selection of best L by D. Okay. And you can see airfoil families. We have a different type of airfoil families. And we have in 1930s, NACA developed a widely used family of mathematically defined airfoils called 4-digit, 5-digit, 6-digit, and 6 series airfoils. In the 4-digit, what happens? They're called uncambered 4-digit airfoils are still commonly used for tail surfaces of subsonic aircraft. And the NACA 5-digit airfoils were developed to allow the shifting the position of maximum camber forward for a great maximum lift. And 6 series airfoils were designed for increased laminar flow and hence reduced drag. So therefore, we are using a different type of series of an airfoil. That we can see that example for F-15 is mainly used 64A series aircraft. We have 64A series and starting with a high-speed wing design. So by this airfoil selection, it tells that what type of aircraft we are going to design. But F-15 mainly we are using 64A series, mainly that are called as a high-speed wing design. It's called high-speed wing design. It's called a high-speed aerodynamics we will call. So we'll discuss about it. And also you can see 6 series airfoils increase laminar flow and hence reduce drag. So therefore, why it is increasing, we can see the different type of series, why we are coming up. So we have to increase the laminar flow. Turbulency should be reduced. The flow separation should not occur at the early stage. So these are the things should be avoided. So we are coming up with the optimizing of the airfoil. And these two shapes are low drag sections designed to have a low flow over it. You can see NACA 66, 1, 2, and 2, 1940. You can see 1944. And these are the things you can see here in this NACA 0042 or NACA. I'll show you in this an example. Understand about it. For example, NACA 0012, NACA 4312. So this 00 represents what? So in this, I will discuss about it. They are called symmetric airfoils and cambered airfoils. How we are going to name it? Okay. First, you understand how many digit it is. 4-digit airfoil, 5-digit airfoil, 6 series airfoils, and 6 series airfoils we are using for a high-speed wing design. Clear? And design. Airfoil drag during cruise, stall and pitching moment characteristics, thickness available for structure, fuel, and ease of manufacture. So therefore, in the past, the designer would select an airfoil by such a catalog by considering how the designer is going to the airfoil by taking up airfoil drag during cruise and stall and pitching moment and thickness available for structure and fuel and ease of manufacture. Why this thickness available for structure? Because we are giving a home for a landing gear as well as the fuel in the wing itself. So therefore, airfoil thickness plays a very important role in that also. Okay, understood. And also you can see that difference between the top and bottom of the airfoil quickly reaches the maximum value and attainable without flow separation. And airfoils with substantial pressure differentials over much of chord than a classical airfoil. And so we can look in this. So towards the rear of the airfoil, various pressure recovery schemes are employed to prevent the separation near the trailing edge. This permits the reduced wing area for a required amount of lift. So in this, what happens, you can see here. So round leading edge So in the before and I shown you the airfoil, you can see the round leading edge increases the pressure quickly, and gradual tapering of sharp trailing edge reduces likelihood of separation under the adverse pressure gradient. And camber, this is the curvature. You can see this curvature, what it represents. The curvature determines how much lift is generated at zero angle of attack. This curvature, it tells that how much this curvature, concavity at the down, you can see that this tells that at a 0 degree how much lift I can achieve. That will be told by, that will be can determined by this concavity. And most airfoils are designed using numerical codes based on potential flow theory. Please make the note of it, potential flow theory, and read it. If you are not understanding, let me know. This is the potential flow theory. It is most of the airfoils are numerical codes in CFD. The coding we will be doing it. That coding will be done mainly on this theory, that is called potential flow theory. Please make the note of it and go through it. If you are not understanding, let me know. Understood? The word itself says potential, how much the strength of the flow over it, so how much the lift can be generated, how much the minimal drag will begin, how the performance will be affected. These are all things will be taken by this the important theory. It's called potential flow theory with boundary layer corrections, but one can also have the wind tunnel data or inverse design methods. Okay, the most airfoils are designed for a specific design point. So we are designing the airfoil to achieve the maximum lift, maximum thickness, because it is for a home for the landing gear as well as the fuel and transonic flight. And there is a, like, what is a transonic, is that is sonic to supersonic, that is the transition state. It is called as a transonic, we will call. And a laminar boundary layer, low Reynolds number or low pitching moment. Okay, these are the parameters what we are going to consider, the special design point considerations. Okay, and also we can see in this graph, so what is happening in this graph. So here CP versus understood CL. When I look here, so this is the thing where it is, you can see the distribution over the upper and the lower surface with a different type of airfoils. So already in the previous section we discussed about it, how the pressure distribution, because what happens here, from the leading edge to a trailing edge, we have a dots, we have a pressure holes will be there here. So when I keep in the wind tunnel, what happens when the airflow occurs, so these holes will be connected to a manometer, the pressure, how the pressure measurement should be done. From that pressure distribution, we'll put up a plot, the graph. At that time, it looks like this. This is called a pressure distribution over the airfoil. Okay, upper and the lower surface both. So by that, we'll understand it, how the net lifting force will be generated. Okay. If the airplane is flying at just under the speed of sound, the faster air traveling over the upper surface will reach the supersonic speed, causing a shock to exist on an upper surface. See here, this is the point. So when the air is flowing at a higher rate, so what happens? There is a point where it reaches to a maximum. That is called a critical Mach number. What is this critical Mach number? Where m is equal to 1. It reaches to a unity. From there, the flow will be supersonic. Understood? So therefore, the speed at which supersonic flow first appears on the airfoil, means on the airfoil where the supersonic flow first appears on the airfoil, is called critical Mach number. It is called what? Critical Mach number. You can see these are called a critical Mach number, where the point where the first it appears to be supersonic, that a point is referred as a critical Mach number. Please understand, it's always, most of the time we'll use what is critical Mach number. The speed at which supersonic flow first appears on the airfoil is called the critical Mach number. Okay, and we can see this is called a camber. You can see the concavity, it is there, no, at a zero angle of attack, how much lift will be generated by, we'll be understanding by this concavity. And also we can see the conventional airfoils and supercritical airfoils. And also we can see this is the flow separation, how it is occurring with the increase in the angle of attack. And in the supercritical airfoils, you can see here, these are called supercritical airfoils. Such type of airfoils are called supercritical airfoils, where we can see that the downward we have a concavity, in the upper we have a little flat region, and where we cannot be flow separation, not be that much easily, and it can use a good lift. And also we are going for a higher speed rate, also we can move the aircraft. So therefore we are using mostly supercritical airfoils. So you can see the boundary layer separation will not be that much easily it occurs. It reattaches. That is called attaching flow. We will call reattaches, and there is no flow separation. Leading edge to trailing edge. When it is leaving trailing edge, what happens? It will not leaves at an early stage. So therefore, what happens? It will have a good lift. You can see this is the drag. This is the, we can see that is a conventional airfoils will have a 0.6, 0.8. It reduces, but it can go in the higher also. The flow separation can be delayed by using the supercritical airfoils. Okay, and next when we discuss here. So we can see there's a design lift coefficient, and we have, you can see tan theta max. This is called L by D max. The min drag condition I will call it. MD is nothing but what? Minimum drag condition. The coefficient of lift at the minimum drag and coefficient of drag at a minimum drag, that is taken as a maximum L by D. What is this L by D? The minimum drag condition is referred as a best L by D or maximum L by D. So therefore, this is the lift coefficient at which airfoil has the best L by D. This is called design lift coefficient I will call. First we have to select the design lift coefficient. When it will be lift coefficient is the best design lift coefficient when you are going to do it. That is for best L by D by choosing the best L by D. What is this best L by D? That is the region where the minimum drag should be there. Minimum drag should be there. This is the point. You can see for a different aircrafts. So camber drag at a 0 lift. It depends upon that. Clear? And this is tan theta is equal to CLMD by CDMD and L by D max. And you can see that W is equal to L, wing like a weight is equal to lift. And we can see here this is called wing loading. So this condition, the lift is equal to, see already we know that lift is equal to weight, thrust is equal to drag. Whenever the aircraft, what happens, upper action force is called as a lift, downward is called as a weight, the forward motion is called as a thrust, and backward it is the hindrance force is called as a drag. So therefore, so in the unaccelerated steady level flight, what happens, weight is equal to lift. So therefore Q into S into CL. So therefore CL, you can see small suffix L, it is for airfoil. So 1 by Q into W by S. This is called wing loading I will call. I will discuss thrust to weight ratio and wing loading. You will understand there. And during the mission fuel is burnt, W by S is reduced. Why? Because the fuel consumption will be there at that time, wing loading will be reduced. So therefore, when you go for a higher heights, what happens? That the pressure will reduce with increase in the altitude. So dynamic pressure will reduce with increase in altitude. So therefore, cruise climb flight with a maximum range. So in actual practice, design lift coefficient will be taken as 0.5. So upon the past experience for the different aircraft when we tested it, so therefore most of the time we'll take a design lift coefficient will be 0.5, where we can see the min drag. So minimum drag will be there at that point. Okay. And so this is the stall characteristics. Stall characteristics play an important role in airfoil selection. See, this is the stall. So how it occurs is the maximum, that is the point where maximum lift, after that it will loses its control. Okay, where the lift will be less compared with the drag. And so these are how the airfoils will be segregated. If T by C is greater than 14%, then it is called the fat airfoil. If thinner airfoils, you can see that it is in between 6% and 14%. This is called T by C. It is in between 6% and 14% is called a thinner airfoils. And less than 6%, they are called what? Very thin airfoils. They are called very thin airfoils. Fat airfoils is greater than 14%. The T by C in between 6 and 14% is called thinner airfoils, and less than 6% is called as a very thin airfoil. So according to the T by C, I'm going to segregate the airfoils as fat, thin, and very thin. Okay. So therefore you can see the bubble distribution. So how it goes, the fat airfoils, you can see the thickness will be higher, and you can see thinner, it will be, and thin airfoils that you can just look the, that is the thickness ratio from the upper and lower surface, we'll understand. Yeah? And so here we have a two airfoils, NACA 4412, NACA 421. Just look here, T by C. Last two numbers represent thickness to chord ratio. Okay, this is called what? The camber position is 44%, 44%. But what is happening here? The 12%. The 12%, what it is, the 12% and 20%. This is 12% thickness and 21% thickness. So we can see this is 21% when I look. The 21% what greater than 14%. This is called fat airfoil. And when I speak about 12% is a thin airfoil. The difference you can see versus CL versus alpha curve. So this is called NACA 4421. You can see this is having a maximum lift. It is coming. After that, it is reducing. It is happening. It is not giving that much of lift compared with a thinner. So therefore, thin airfoils will have a maximum lift when you compare with a thicker airfoil. So therefore, thickness has effect on major on CL max. Okay, it's selecting about the coefficient of lift. So therefore, this is the graph what it represents. Last two numbers, 21 and 12, the 12% of thickness, 21% of thickness. Whenever you see the airfoil, you have to tell that if the two numbers are 0, 0, then you call it as symmetric. If it is 44, this is called cambered airfoil. It is the camber position, where the 44% camber position where I am going to place my camber. And last two number represents what? Thickness to chord ratio, T by C. T by C, what I am speaking. See here, it is greater than 21, 14% fat airfoils. In to 14%, they are called as a thin airfoils. Clear? And so both NACA 4412 and NACA 4421 have a same shape of mean camber line. So here, camber line, mean camber line will be same here, 44 and 44, but only differing with the thickness. The thin airfoil theory predicts that linear lift slope alpha L is equal to 0 should be same for both. But gauge stall shows a rapid drop of a lift curve near the maximum lift. Trailing edge stall shows the gradual bending over the curve lift at a soft stall. Therefore, high CL max for airfoils with a leading edge flat plate exhibits the poorest behavior. So therefore, understand that thickness plays a very important understood the lift coefficient. And we can look here. There are two types of twist to avoid this. What do you call stall? We are going to another concept called wing twist. What is this twist? The twist angle is introduced to prevent stall. Always remember, being a designers, whenever you want to avoid this stall in the wings, so therefore we are putting up an angle called as a twist angle. So twist angle is introduced to prevent stall from occurring the wingtip before the wing root. We have two types of twist. One is negative twist. Another one is positive twist. We can see that if it is the we can see this is called root to tip section. It is a root down. This is called as a negative twist. If root section is going up, that is called as a positive twist. Okay, so the difference between the negative and the positive twist. So what happens here, usually wings are washout twisted, resulting in decreasing angle of attack. This is called washout twist. So this is called wash-in twist. Usually the wings are washout twist. Why? Because usually wings are washout twisted, resulting in decreasing angle of attack starting from the root and towards the tip. So precisely, the twist angle is angle between the zero lift line of the profile, current section of the zero lift line of the root profile. Understood? So therefore, in this we can look here. And also, just to understand two types of twist, one is wash-in and wash-out. Mainly the wings are given as a wash-out twist, not the wash-in twist. And also, why the twist is introduced to prevent the stall. Just to remember this. The twist angle is introduced to prevent the twist. Mainly the wings will be given as a washout twist. Why it is each and everything we'll discuss in the wing design. And the designer may also affect the different airfoils that root and tip. And tip airfoil selected which stalls at the higher angle of attack at the root. So therefore, we can see here NACA 6512 and NACA 64328. We can see 12% and 18% thickness it is. That depends upon that. Okay. So according to the lift coefficient versus wing angle of attack, and you can see root, mid span, and the tip span. This is called tip span. Understood? And we have a root span as well as a mid span. So this is the root section of NACA 63221 and tip section. This is called tip section. You can see that how much is that. This is called tip section of a NACA 0024. 00 represents what? It is called zero camber. There is no camber. They are called the symmetric airfoils. Okay. And airfoil thickness ratio, it will be effects on drag, maximum lift, stall characteristics, and structural weight. Okay. And also it depends upon the thickness. So always remember airfoil thickness to chord ratio. It is very important. In if thickness is increasing, drag is increasing, and maximum lift, stall characteristics, and a structural weight. And we can look here supercritical airfoils. Supercritical airfoils are designed to delay a reduced transonic drag rise due to both strong normal shock and shock induced drag boundary layer separation. So we can, according to that, you can see this is conventional and this is a supercritical. You can see here, this is the very early stage. We can see the flow separation, but in the supercritical airfoil, due to the, you can see this is the slope, what it is. You can see there easily it will get separates. But what happens here? This is a flat surface on the upper surface. So it is the bubble, what it is in the upper surface, it is delaying flow separation. See, it is delayed flow separation. There is no flow separation is less compared with the conventional airfoils because this will sustain for a longer. See, the lift will be good. See here for a longer time. So therefore, supercritical airfoils, it is used to delay the flow separation. Always remember why, because the concavity is increasing at the bottom. But you can see here in this upper surface, you can see very early stage. So therefore, this is the difference between the classical airfoil as well as a supercritical airfoil. Okay, the weak shock wave will be formed, but a strong shock wave will be formed. So understand why the shock wave will be formed. When the shock waves, when you are going at higher speed, if the shock wave forms, what happens? It reduces the supersonic to directly subsonic. At that time, speed will get reduces. So speed is reducing in the sense drag will be more. So therefore, so you can see in this supercritical weak shock waves, not a strong shock wave because of the flat surface. You can see. And also we can concavity is more compared with this. Clear? So therefore supercritical airfoils are more efficient when compared with the conventional type of airfoils. And also we can see here, and supercritical airfoil. This is supercritical airfoil and this is a conventional airfoil. Okay, what we have used is 16% increase, and you can see this is the dotted line what it represents. And also drag will be higher, and with this one you see drag will be less, and this is efficiently the flow separation will be it will not occur at an early stage. It's having a good lift and good cruise speed also. You can see this is the condition when I look here. This is for supercritical airfoil and conventional. See, this is for, see here at an early stage itself, I can see that it will be CD will be higher here, but what is happening here, CD will be less, and you can see here it is having a, it's having a good speed, and also it will be a more efficient when compared with that. So therefore, supercritical airfoils are more efficient airfoils compared with the classical airfoils. And optimum airfoil thickness ratio. And the thickness ratio affects the maximum lift and stall characteristics primarily by its effect on the nose shape. So this is the primarily effect on this nose shape. You can see this is a nose shape. Okay, this is a nose shape. Okay, so and the large nose radius provides a high stall angle and greater maximum lift coefficient with a high aspect ratio and moderate sweep. And you can see a 63 to XX, and you can see this last two number always represents thickness to chord ratio. Example of optimum selection. Okay, this is 1 2, this thickness will be around 12%. Okay, and the structural weight, it is 1 by root of T by C. So therefore, halving the thickness ratio, wing weight increases of 41%, and wing weight is typically about 15% of the empty weight. Halving the thickness ratio about is greater than 6%. And supercritical airfoils would 10 to 10% thicker than the historical trend. Okay, and you can see due to the fuselage effects, the root airfoil in subsonic aircraft can be as much as 20 to 60% thicker than the tip airfoil without greatly affecting the drag. This is very beneficial, resulting in structural weight reduction as well as more volume for a fuel and landing gear. So therefore, always remember structural weight is inversely proportional to the square root of T by C, square root of T by C. Understood? Other airfoil consideration, always remember here, in this it is selection is intended on a Reynolds number. Already you know that Reynolds is the function of Reynolds number. And and also an aircraft designer should be not spend too much time on this and write airfoil in an early conceptual design. Our later trade studies analytical design tools will determine the desired airfoil characteristics and geometry. The early conceptual layer, the selected airfoil is important, mostly determining the thickness available for structure, landing gear, and fuel. In a conceptual designing, when you are approaching, mainly we are looking for the thickness is mainly for what? It is for a structure, landing gear, and fuel. We can give the home for this fuel, home for landing gear, and available structure. And you can see that this one we'll discuss in the further classes, just to understand how the airfoil is an important role. Okay, and after this, just already I discussed for other candidates on this. Okay, and any doubts, Soundarya? Hello, Soundarya.
Hello? No, sir.
Okay, just I will show you the one and the design software. By this, just you'll understand how the airfoil selection. Just will look into it. You can see the screen. You can.
Sir, I'm not able to hear you.
Not audible. It's audible.
Not audible.
Now also, it's not audible.
Now little bit okay. Okay, now okay.
I think network problem. Just too much of.
Sir, I can't hear you, sir. It's completely blank.
Okay, now it is. Hello.
Yeah.
See here. So for example, I'm telling you in this just to see the year understood. In this tool, how you are going to design software, how you are general, you can see in general what happens, the model of an aircraft. We will select that any model or what type of aircraft. It's a classification I given as a light airplane. Okay. You are going to design a light airplane. What type of layout it is? Conventional type of aircraft. Okay. And also we'll give some manufacturer name as it may be Rolls Royce, it may be understood. Depends. Here I given as a Standard Hamilton Aircraft Corp. Understood. So when I click here, so of the wing, you can see in this wing, we can see that it's a span of area of the wing and span of the wing. What is the span of the wing? One end to the other end. It is called what? Span, correct? And longitudinal position of the fuselage, where I should positioning my fuselage in the longitudinal, and also vertical position. For example, if vertical position, if I give some 1.7, okay, so just I'm 1.7, and also you can see the twist angle and incident route, because this is a normal light aircraft. I am not required to give a twist because of complexity I don't want to make it, so therefore twist angle will be 0. And dihedral angle, what is dihedral angle?
Sir, at which slide are you in, sir? At which slide are you?
It's not showing now. This is not
No, not sure.
1 minute, 1 minute. Now it is showing. Now it is showing.
Are you in the 12th page, sir?
Not 12th page. I am in the some tool, ADS tool. It's not there. It is not showing.
Yeah, it's showing now. Yeah. Okay.
Now it is showing.
Yes, yes.
Yes, ADS you can see, right? Okay. So in this, what happens? You look here. This is the area of the wing, span, longitudinal position. How they were calculated. This is dihedral angle. We will call, correct. So this is dihedral angle. What happens here? So in this, we can see here. This is 2.0 is a dihedral angle. What is a dihedral angle? This is the angle between the horizon with respect to the wing. Clear. So therefore, so next you can see this is called horizontal tail. So what is the area of the horizontal tail? Span. And we will calculate these all things in our design. I will just, I'm showing you as stabilizer and elevator how we are going to take up. And vertical tail, you can see the area, span, and longitudinal and vertical position. And you can see the fuselage. And what is the maximum height of the fuselage, maximum width. This height to width is called as a fitness ratio, we will call. I will discuss in the crew station and passenger payload. Just, you know that, just familiar with these things. Length of a fuselage is this. And we can see the platform area of front view, side view, top view. Okay. And landing gear. So we can see the wheelbase is how much? 1.57 I taken. It is track 3.10. Already I feeded the information to this. Just I'm telling already calculated one. What should be the wheelbase? Around 1.547 meters and 3.104 meter. And engine, what type of engine I'm selecting here? It's a Lycom IO 540K 1B5. This is the series of engine. It's a piston engine aircraft. Okay. So therefore it's a propeller based aircraft, Lycom engine I'm selecting. So therefore first we are taking up a airfoil wing geometry. After that we are going to the horizontal tail, vertical tail, fuselage, landing gear. Next you can see the propeller. So how many type of number of propeller blades? We have a 3 propeller blades in this aircraft. And also type is hydraulic constant speed. We'll tell variable pitch and fixed pitch. 2 types of propellers will come. What are those? Variable pitch and a fixed pitch. Here hydraulic constant speed. The propeller speed will be constant, will not vary. Okay. And material, which material I used here for a propeller? It is metal, not wood composite. I'm using for a metal here. And systems, we can see here systems, total fuel capability around 260 liters. How much? Fuel unusable. Yesterday I'm discussing trapped fuel, reserved fuel, mission fuel. You understood? Yesterday we are speaking about mission fuel, which is used for the mission purpose, trapped fuel, and reserved fuel. This is called unusable fuel. It's a reserved fuel, 0.08. It's a trapped. We cannot use this. Trapped fuel we'll call it. It's a 0.08. And performance. What are the performance parameters? You can see these are the performance phases of the flight. You can see stall. So during the stall, see a clean and a dirty. According to that, we have with flaps, without flaps. We'll discuss about it. Flight weight and flight altitude. Where how much it is? 2,438. This is the meters above the level. CG, it is a percent of Mach. It's a mean aerodynamic center we'll call. So these are all the things. And cruise, maximum rate of climb. You can see this is the thing. So we can see takeoff, landing, best range, Vmax, and a ceiling. So this is what ceiling is, a maximum height where my aircraft can fly. That is called ceiling altitude. We call absolute altitude or a ceiling altitude. And Vmax and best range and landing, takeoff and maximum rate of climb and a stall. These are called as a performance parameters. They're called as what? So whenever somebody asks you what are the performance parameters, it is a stall characteristics, cruise characteristics, maximum rate of climb, takeoff, landing, best range, Vmax, velocity, maximum velocity of an aircraft, ceiling. These are all comes under performance. And the weight, and we have options. See, total empty weight of an aircraft. We told, right? W naught is equal to W crew plus W payload plus WE. Understood? WF. This is called empty weight, WE. And maximum takeoff will be 1134. And freight weight around whatever the goods cargo, what you are carrying, 45.4. So if I compute it, see, a data installation is going up. If I compute it, so we can see in general, I will get all the details. See here, this is the manufacturer is Glacier 3, Stoddard Hamilton aircraft, manufacturer, light airplane, conventional type of aircraft it is, and dual central stick. It is a dual central stick, and we can see here, and dual central stick control, 2 seats inside, side by side. How many seater aircraft is 2 side? And what is the part 23? Yesterday I'm discussing part 23 is less than 12,500 lb. Such aircrafts are comes under Federal Aviation Requirements. FAR is nothing but what? Federal Aviation Requirement. What is the purpose? It is for requirement part touring purpose. And kit level 1 composite and fiberglass, what we have used, and airframe. And wing configuration is cantilever, tapered, swept, unswept, low. So low wing configuration, unswept wing, swept and tapered wing. We have a tapered from tip to root, and cantilever beam. You know what are the cantilever beams? You would have studied in your SOM, strength of materials and mechanics of cantilever beams. In the same way, it's called cantilever, fixed at one end. And tail configuration, cruciform. And you can see the cruciform type of a tail. So in the first section, I'd shown you what are the type of cruciform. I will discuss about it. And fuselage mounted and single engine piston tractor. What is tractor prop? This is the propeller. It will be at the front portion. They are called a tractor. If it is back, that is called pusher prop. And landing gear, it is retractable, nose wing mounted. Clear? So these are all different type of, you can see, year of overall performance. So these are all things we are calculating. We'll by the design. Okay, we will by manually we are calculating. After that, with a tool, we are understanding. See here, so where the position. These are all things we are going to calculate here. Say lift slope and wetted area, ailerons, and we'll discuss about it. And also wing and tail, the horizontal tail. Understood? So the landing gear, propeller, engine. So the engine also, how many number of engines we have? 4-stroke engine it is. Understood? I will discuss in detail about this software. Okay, just to understand how it is, how we are going to do it. Okay. So in this, we can see this type of aircraft, and also we can see in this. So here you can see here in the ear. So this is when I'm selecting for airfoil, or show you tail and aerodynamics of it. And it's a different one. This is a different aircraft, light airplane and glider, ultralight. We can select the different type of aircrafts, and we can look into it. So just I will discuss about it. You understood how the things will be calculated it. Okay. Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Understood. Just we will discuss it in detail with aircraft. Just I shown you what all the things are there, how the parameters we are going to consider when you are discussing about it. Okay. So we will calculate each and everything in the further classes. Okay. In the further sessions, we will discussing each and everything, whatever the parameters I shown you in the ADS, right? So those ADS, whatever it is there, each and everything we will be learning. Okay. Just I shown how the software works, how you are going to generate the data, how to initialize the system. Clear? Any doubt?